All right, for today's video, let's take a look at what WWE wrestlers are currently out of action due to injury and when they're expected to return if in fact they have an estimated return date. We'll take a look at the Raw, Smackdown, and NXT rosters. Let's take a look at the Raw roster first. When we look at that, we see that Sheamus, at age 47, he's out of action after undergoing shoulder surgery at the end of December 2025. His last match was on the November 17th, 2025 episode of Raw, and at this time, there's no estimates for when his return will be. Up next, Chad Gable announced on July 1st of 2025 that he had surgery for an undisclosed arm injury, and he's been out of action since. Towards the end of December of 2025, he was reported to be at the WWE Performance Center training for his return, and word is that he'll be back by the Royal Rumble on January 31st, 2026. Up next, Seth Rollins. He's been out of action since the WWE Crown Jewel Premium Live event took place on October 11th, 2025, where he suffered a shoulder injury going up against Cody Rhodes. He's undergone surgery and he hopes to start training in February 2026 for a return in April of 2026. Now, up next, we got Dominic Mysterio. He's out of action due to a shoulder injury. It seems like as of late, there's been a lot of shoulder injuries in WWE and AEW. He last had a match on a AAA wrestling show on December 20th, 2025. Although they announced on the December 29th, 2025 episode of Raw that he'll be out of action indefinitely, in reality, word is that he doesn't need surgery and that they hope he'll be medically cleared to be back by the end of January for the Royal Rumble event. Up next, we have J.D. McDonough, who announced on December 15th, 2025 that he had surgery on one of his hands, but it didn't really say how severe his injury was or what caused it. As of now, there's no estimated date for his return other than J.D. McDonough just saying that he didn't think he'd be out that long because of it. Up next, Zoe Stark. She's been out of action since the May 29th, 2025 episode of Raw, where she unfortunately suffered a really bad knee injury involving tears to her ACL, MCL, and meniscus. At this time, there's no estimated date for when she'll return, although she did post on social media recently. All she said was she just had the word soon up on a screen, so maybe she thinks she'll be back in the next few months. Up next on the Raw roster, we have Naomi. She's been out of action since the summer of 2025 due to maternity leave, where she had to vacate the WWE Women's World Championship in August 2025 due to that. A lot of times, wrestlers, when they go on maternity leave, they're out for 2 years or so. So, of course, we don't really know when Naomi's coming back, but maybe she'll be back in a couple of years. Who knows? Up next, we have on the Raw roster, LA Knight. LA Knight, he's currently out of action, but it said that that's just a storyline. It was announced on the December 8th, 2025 episode of Raw that LA Knight was out of action indefinitely due to a cracked sternum suffered from an attack by Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. And a broken sternum can take anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks to heal, so we'll see when they actually bring him back. Lots of times with these storyline injuries, they pretend that there was some, big miraculous recovery where the person heals up in, half the time it would have taken a regular, healthy person to recover, if it's even that long, which makes the storyline look all the more, ridiculous and implausible. It said that WWE took him off TV for a while as a reset for him, so that they can refocus what they're doing with him on the creative side of things, as they have big plans for this guy when he does return, maybe even a 2026 championship run. So we'll see how all that plays out. Also on the Raw roster, it sounds like Stephanie Vaquer, the current WWE Women's World Champion, she has some sort of a legitimate ankle injury from a match that happened in late December 2025, and then they did a storyline on Raw's first episode of 2026 where Raquel Rodriguez attacked her. So maybe that was their way of writing her off the show for a while, but I haven't seen anything yet where like they're saying that she'll be pulled off the show and she'll have to relinquish her championship. So we'll have to see how all that plays out. I mean, maybe they did the attack by Raquel to kind of, like explain why Stephanie Vaquera, she's not doing that much on the show. But, we'll see how all that plays out. Now let's go on to the SmackDown roster. Over here, we see that Kevin Owens, he's been off the WWE television since he announced on the April 4, 2025 episode of SmackDown that he had to have neck surgery and would be out for a lengthy time due to that. And he had successful neck surgery on July 18th, 2025, and there's no timetable for when he's going to be back. Also on SmackDown, Piper Niven is out of action due to a serious neck injury. And unfortunately, it could be the end of her career. And however, it seems like as of right now, those in WWE believe that she'll eventually be able to recover and she'll be able to return. However, there's no estimated timetable for her return at this time. So best of luck to her. I really don't want to see that being the end of her career. Up next on the SmackDown roster, we have Elton Prince of the tag team Pretty Deadly. He's been out of action a long time. Since the May 2nd, 2025 episode of SmackDown, where him and his tag team partner, Kit Wilson, were up against Nathan Frazier and Axiom, and Prince got badly injured. He recently announced on January 9th, 2026, that he had undergone 2-level neck fusion surgery the previous day. There is no estimated date for his return, but that's another one of those injuries where if he ends up being unable to come back or doesn't want to risk coming back, it wouldn't surprise me because that's some pretty awful serious stuff. I was going to include here on this video that Apollo Crews, who had suffered a torn pectoral muscle on the January 31st, 2025 episode of SmackDown, and he had surgery for the following month. He hasn't been seen since. However, he just made his return to WWE on their weekly show, WWE Main Event, on the January 8th, 2026 episode a few days ago. So it's good to see that Apollo Crews is back in action once again. Also on the SmackDown roster, Mia Yim, also known as Michin, suffered a shoulder injury in a house show match against Jade Cargill in late December 2025, and she's now out of action. Hasn't really been any word on how bad the injury is as of yet, and there's no word on when she's estimated to return, so we'll see how all that plays out. There's also been reports that B-Fab may have been injured in a house show match against Jade Cargill recently. Haven't heard a lot about this one, so we'll see how all this one plays out. Like some people, or there were reports that might have been maybe some kind of a concussion or maybe something even more serious. So we'll see how all that turns out there. Now on to the NXT roster. Let's see what's going on here. Noam Dar, he's been out of action. He's been off WWE television since the June 21st, 2025 episode of NXT, when he had to relinquish the NXT Heritage Cup Championship due to an undisclosed injury. There's no estimated time for when his return is going to be. Also, we have Adriana Rizzo, who announced on August 10th of 2025 that she unfortunately had a torn meniscus and a torn ACL. She's thinking that she'll be out of action until sometime in the spring of 2026. Also on the NXT roster, we've seen her also on the Evolve roster, Brinley Reese. Now, she's been out of action. She went out of action like in the spring of 2025. She needed surgery, and we've seen in the last few weeks she has quit the company. So that's how all that played out. Also, I thought it'd be interesting to note the status of a couple of main roster wrestlers that you rarely see around anymore. Some people might be wondering, like, well, whatever happened with them? Are they injured? Did they quit? Did they get fired? What's going on with them? Now, Omos, he's still around and with WWE. although he hasn't been on Raw in almost like 2 years. You might have seen Omos if you've been watching AAA shows since WWE had acquired the company. And it was said that Omos wrestled in a couple of NXT house shows in October 2025, but it just doesn't seem like WWE Creative really has anything for Omos, which is unfortunate because here it's like year after year has gone by and, he's, like the prime of his career right now and stuff, but it just doesn't seem like they have anything for him. And I mean, me personally, I was always a fan of Omos. I mean, I think that Raw would be a more interesting show if they brought back Omos. They had this like 7-foot tall giant, destroying some of these other wrestlers, but it just seems like WWE right now, they don't want to have more than just a few of these big monster-sized wrestlers on each brand. Like you figure they got like Tala Tonga on Smackdown, they got Bronson Reed on Raw, and they don't really seem to want to have like more of these big monster-sized wrestlers other than that, So I think they need to bring back Braun Strowman and bring back Omos to make their programming more entertaining. That's just me. I mean, we've seen Omos in AAA, but I'd like to see him on more shows other than that. Now, also, Tamina Snuka, I mean, she's said to still be under contract at WWE, although it seems like she's basically on the inactive list. They just never seem to have any plans for her either. The last time she was on WWE TV that I'm aware of, I think was probably in like March of 2023 when she faced off with Maya Yim, also known as Michin, on WWE Main Event. I mean, I certainly wish the injured WWE wrestlers who are out of action a full and speedy recovery. And if there's anybody I forgot about, please let me know in the comments below. And I wish you all the best in your own journey, whatever that may be. Talk to you soon.